Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to some Faceit League action. Myself, of course, Huntertain, joined by Dexatron, and we are with our second game of our double feature here today. Of course, Goodfellas getting the better of Pumas in 3-0 fashion earlier on, but Dex, this is one of those matches where you don't expect it to be a 3-0. These are two teams that did amazing things last season, and as far as we're concerned, are poised to do good things this season. Rosters are the same. These teams are coming out just as dominant as they did before, and there's no reason to believe that this wouldn't be essentially a clash of the Titans going into today.
Yeah, absolutely. Both these teams have won their first couple games of this season. Midori and DayStar, formerly known as Dreamlight. I mean, Dreamlight was one of those teams that made it pretty far in last year's playoffs here. And Midori, they were probably the surprise of everyone. Hunter, they were definitely the surprise of me and you, considering we ended up casting a lot of maps of Midori in that playoff run that they had. But DayStar, again, now under the DayStar banner here, again, none of these teams have made any changes. That was one thing that I was looking up to really study these two teams going into. Did they add anyone? Did they drop anyone? No. These have basically been the same teams for a very, very long time. So it's not a big shock that they are sitting atop of the NA Masters standings at the moment.
No, it's no surprise whatsoever in a scenario like this, and it wouldn't be surprised if it ends up staying this way. But the problem is for one of these squads is that one of them is going to have to take a loss here today. But to be fair, if you take a loss to one of the other best teams within the division, I don't think there's a basis to feel too bad about it. You'll get your chance later down the line for revenge, so long as you keep on the straight and narrow, keep winning these games. But this early in the season as well, teams react a little differently to these losses. I mean, we have seen teams at some point that take a couple bad losses and it just really affects them for the rest of the season, but for others in these scenarios, a win over one of the best teams as well, that can propel them forward to hold on to the top spot for majority of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it might not be, to make an analogy to last season, might not have been at the start of the season, but the end of the season, where you saw Shikigami, Midori's sister team, able to beat, I believe at the time, Alternate, who was sitting atop of, or either at the top or very close to the top of the NA Master standings, went on a little bit of a run after that, ended up getting their way into playoffs. And both me and you, Hunter, were looking at that, saying that Shikigami needed to win that one to keep their hopes alive. Well, they kept them alive very well then. But now, focusing in on this game here again, map pool for our first map of control will always be Busan, Ilios, and Oasis. We've been seeing a lot more Oasis here recently. We did see Busan earlier tonight in South America, but I don't necessarily think we'll see it again.
I don't think so either. The possibility always exists, but Oasis kind of has become the go-to pick. It started becoming that near the end of last season as well. Every likelihood it's going to stay the same, but you never know what the style is going to be. But, of course, history is very much repeating itself as we speak, as we are indeed going to be heading over towards that Oasis, which, again, like a lot of the control maps, is going to create an opportunity for these teams to kind of show what they can flex, since a lot of these sub-points play quite differently.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about a lot during the playoff run that a lot of people look at Oasis as maybe one of the best maps that truly really shows off all the individual skills you need to be a really good Overwatch player. Whether it just be maps, whether it be taking space, whether it be playing aggressive, whether it just be knowing your way around the map. This is a really good map for it. And like you said, you can play a lot of different compositions here, because not every point is really, good for any type of composition here. We already know what our first ban, though, of the series will be. It will be the Cassidy, which, Hunter, I mean, this has been a normal kind of ban we've seen here in NA, because Cassidy right now is at a really, really strong point in the meta.
Oh, extremely strong point. I think we saw that come into precedence a lot near the end of last season, as well as Cassidy started to get used like more and more over something like the Sojourn and the Freya. And you can't really blame it either, because there were people that came in and absolutely popped off on that hero, and it's no surprise that the case is going to be the exact same within this scenario. So wanting to simply get rid of it, not have to deal with it right out the rip, I can't blame anybody for making that choice this early on.
Absolutely. But second ban came in. We will let y'all know what that is when it does come up for us. But right now, these two teams finalizing the rosters. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, both these teams unchanged from last season. So DayStar, a lot of people really do expect them to be the best team here. And I mean, I was looking at some of the power rankings at some of the other casters and streamers have put out, a lot of people do have DayStar at that very top. Whether if it's not 1, it is 2. That is how good this team is. But people also have Midori kind of hovering around that top 5 area as well. So this should be a really good matchup on our hands here tonight.
Naya 100% should be in this scenario. Of course, just waiting for that Midori pick to come through now, which of course has to be either a support or a tank, which teams seem to lean more towards the support bans a lot of the time, which, to be fair, I don't blame, because if you get rid of specific supports, it's really hard to find a character to replace what that person can do. If you get rid of like a Cassie, it's like, oh, okay, depending on the map, we can replace it with like a Sojourner, we can replace it with an Ashe, a Frey. You replace it with a lot of different things. If you get rid of something like a Kiriko, it's way different, because sometimes teams have to change up a style and change over to like an Ana Brig instead. Maybe they have to force something like the Juno or the Baptiste. It changes the complete style and perspective. But I mean, I don't even have to, you know what? I'm justified, because guess what? The pick is Kiriko right out the gate.
I mean, we always talk about just making safe bans in map 1, and right now at the moment, these are probably 2 safe bans. Cassidy, very strong. Kiriko has always kind of just been strong, never necessarily been out of the meta fully here, but 2 really good safe bans here for this first map. Really does force you to kind of play some off stuff. Like you kind of said, you get rid of Kiriko, you probably bring Lucio in, you probably bring some other stuff. You could see Juno, you could see Ana come back into play. Baptiste has started to get a lot more play, so you could see that as well. So you do have options here, especially on that support line and on that DPS line. Like you mentioned, hit scans, probably you'll be seeing a lot of Soj and Freya if you're gonna be seeing that, unless we see a dual flex, which hasn't been out of the ordinary for us to see, honestly.
It really hasn't been, especially in recent times. It's not a surprise in the slightest that we kind of trended that direction, because obviously Overwatch for the longest time was kind of based upon that, one hit scan, one flex DPS kind of style. But of course, going double flex or even double hit scan in some maps is extremely viable. And that is just the game that we live in nowadays, where we are at a time where the meta is less defined, because we do have things like hero bans and map picks that are, again, more defined than what they previously were. Yeah. So in this scenario right here, we're grateful to be able to see a lot of different things, so we won't see the same 5-6 heroes every single time. This is why teams have to shake it up. And even when they do scrimmages, I know some teams practice not having to play some of their best heroes in anticipation for these scenarios.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right now, though, while we wait for, I believe it is 1 player from Midori to load in, I mean, this does leave the tank pool wide open, which is always an interesting one when left wide open, especially for a control map, because like we mentioned, you can play a lot of different compositions here, and you normally are building your compositions around your tank for the most part. So no tank bans. Hazard could be played, Wrecking Ball could be played, Orisa could be played, Ramatra, Doom. I mean, you could see basically any tank come out here at the moment, especially on Oasis. Yeah, on Oasis, you can see so many fun tanks come out here. It looks like we're gonna be loading in, and we'll be starting off on University, probably the more brawly of the maps that we would really expect to see, but that hasn't stopped us in the past from seeing some truly off-the-wall picks like a Doomfist, like a Wrecking Ball, really work.
Yeah, no, 100%, and we're going to see what kind of picks can work in this situation. Like you said, with that tank pool wide open, it's going to create for a lot of interesting scenarios. But if there's one map where things really should stay the bare bones basic, it is going to be that University, which we're going to get started, and right now the double Ramatra showing its face, and honestly, that seems to be what we're going to stick with.
Yeah, honestly, I think we're really going to end up just seeing a mirror across the board here right now. Zach will probably swap over to a Tracer. Same thing with Talisman, who's going to already show the Tracer nose. Yep, there's the sim. Actually, no, it's going to be a lot like what we saw earlier tonight in South America, where only the hit scan DPS was the one that was different on each side here. Freya for Cabe, and now manually for the side of DayStar is going to be on the Soj, which, especially for this map, being able to get up to that high ground, I think is a little bit better. But hey, Cabe could also get up there as well, but they want to fight for the high ground, which is something you rarely see in my opinion.
Yeah, but both feel confident that they can take it. Triplets in a really weird scenario, gets pulled down, and we do have trades coming through, but Dion has already gotten rid of 2. Unfortunately, Hero just a little too far separated, while Zach is still trying to hang around. 1 health remaining. Going to simply take the reset. This point going to quickly unlock in this situation, as all things considered, a pretty clean fight for them.
Yeah, really good fight there for DayStar. I mean, both Lucios got very aggressively there, especially as, like I said, you don't really see that many fights on that high ground because it's a haven for Lucio to find boop kills. And right now you see DayStar just set back up there with Dion just trying to take so much space. But Triplet, again, they're looking for that opportunity to really cause a lot of problems up there on that high ground.
No, 100%. You see that recall being expended by Zach. Narwhal getting caught out, though. Edge manually just going to keep backing up. Dion gonna need a little bit more carrots. That Nemesis going to run out. Now this is the opportunity for Midori to start moving forward, keep taking this space over. But the next engagement is likely to come through for another touch as Dion about to have this next Nemesis one ready to go, running towards that backline. But Graveyard being caught out, and now suddenly the second boom that existed is quickly coming to an end as Midori takes over the point.
Yeah, and Dion just rushing straight on the point, recognizing that's going to probably be the only way they're going to die as quickly as it did. Manually finding one on their way out is big, but they'll immediately be taken out right after, so it kind of loses its impact right there. But a really good fight there for Midori as they come back in. And really it all started with getting Narwhal out. You look at the difference right now between Narwhal and Triplet. That beat could be huge here, especially for canceling out potentially an annihilation from Dion that could really keep this Midori squad in a fight, especially long enough for Hero to build up to their own.
Yep, 100%. Of course, important fight coming online. Manually hoping to find something. Has to take the Immortality Field, and unfortunately doesn't end up getting a ton of value. But Ultimate's coming heavy for both sides as Zach has been taken out in the 1v1 by Talisman, and manually getting the headshot onto Cave. Means, unfortunately, this fight going to fall apart. DayStar shortly gonna take back over as we're gonna have will essentially be a 4-4 ult trade coming up.
Yeah, but I mean, that image from Seaborn was probably just placed in the wrong spot. They were really trying to make sure no one came from either side, but just let them open from the point, and it really just came back to bite them. Like you said, though, Ultimate's online, already damaged out here from Graveyard as they try to win a fight here pretty early on.
Yep. 100% right now. Dion is just getting drilled into all that care. Eventually works out. Now Hero playing aggressively with that annihilation. They're getting pinned from both sides, and unfortunately, that's going to be lights out right there for DayStar's Midori. A little more cleaning up to do with Dion, who's just going to hold that block for as long as they can. Talisman's still hanging around, but likely just going to take the reset. 78% on the clock. And these teams incredibly back and forth out the rip.
Yeah, Narwhal, though, didn't have that beat ready to go there. That's why Hero found so much value with that Annihilation. Triplet, though, they're going to have the beat to go, ready to go here for Dion's Annihilation. So right now, Midori's in a little bit of a better spot overall. Zach with the Pulse Bomb as well. You can land it onto someone like Cave, which they almost do. It could have been a huge, onto manually, like they almost do. Could have been a huge opener for Midori, but still, they have that beat to go here.
Yep, beat is going through. Getting pulled down means it hits immediately. Ends up getting trade out with Narwhal. And now with both of those expended, Dion is going to go super aggro because there's nothing to stop them away as Hero gets deactivated just like that. And eventually someone has to either jump on this point or they need to take the reset. And as we see everybody drop down, commit towards the point, try to make something happen in this fight. See a little bit of separation, boops around as eventually this is going to be capped over with a little bit more stall. But that's really smart. Everybody dying on the point, going to be able to reset for one more fight.
Yeah, and basically this will be final fight no matter what here. I mean, you see Midori coming back in. They have the Amix, they have the Bullet Shot. Bullet Shot, again, I'll always say it's kind of in a weak spot right now, but through the Amix, you might be able to find a kill here. You can still find a kill if you stick it on someone like Triplet and or someone like Narwhal, and even force out that Immortality Field from the other side.
Yep, Cave going to hit the bolo. Unfortunately, Talisman not able to stick on anything manually. Had to try to make it happen this time around. Eventually going to take the trade out with Cave. But Zach managing to keep them down directly after the fact. Graveyard getting their ult online. Unfortunately, Seaborn not able to take advantage of their own, is eventually burning away. It is the stall game starting to come through as Triplet making the initial touch onto the point, but DayStar should be only a short distance away from making this one happen. The touches are plentiful, but the damage is not, as indeed DayStar will take that first round.
Yeah, a good back and forth round here from both these teams. This is what we kind of expected from this matchup just in general. These were two of the best teams last season. Both these teams made pretty long runs last season as well. So we really expected it as a back and forth matchup. And like I said, no one from these teams has changed. These are still the same lineups from last season here. But right now, if you're DayStar, you're really happy with how that first point went. It seemed like you guys, they had a better understanding or better grasp on their ultimate economy. Always found just the right time to use them. And honestly, it really did come down to the fact that Narwhal really struggled to build their beat. Granted, that's not a good thing to be saying, but they were able to hold on to their beat so that Hero necessarily did not have the best opportunity or time to really find the opportunity to use that Annihilation. Granted, Hero still used it, found and won a team fight, but it was held on to maybe a little bit too long to where Midori really had to use it just to try to make sure that that point would not get up to overtime.
Yeah, 100%. Zach easily having to hit the recall of Tailsman, having to do the exact same just moments later. As you can see right now, everyone nervous to push up, looking for potential boop is Narwhal, but Narwhal, obviously everyone knows Narwhal's hanging around there, eventually going to be kept alive momentarily. Unfortunately though, that is momentary indeed. As DayStar ropes the Narwhal without Narwhal means you're going to have to see a little bit of a commitment there, as they're simply going to back off, try to get everybody out alive. As, yeah, everyone does actually get out.
That's good right there for DayStar, just to get out. Narwhal's had a little bit of a rough start at the start of these first 2 points. I mean, they were, I believe, the first pick for DayStar last map. They were the first pick again this time. Cave, though, finding Manly, as Cave going over to the Soj for this point.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a rough scenario to lose somebody that early on. As Narwhal going down means that fight, yes, definitively overtaken care of. You're going to see Zach chase a little bit, but eventually recall. As, honestly, you can't blame Midori for playing it up that close.
No, you can't. And right now, just playing up this far, I think is a really good thing. You're building up that lead. You're really going to force DayStar here to split up. Granted, the only person who's going to be splitting up is Talisman, which not necessarily the biggest problem, but you really don't want Tracer just lurking in your back line.
100% is, yeah, lots coming through as Hero. About to have Annihilation getting super low. Has to use the Nemesis initially just to commit a little bit. As they're eventually see both KBR and Seaborn try to commit on Zach, hoping to flipping with the pulse bomb. Unfortunately, not making it happen. Hero trying to run it down main, has gotten rid of Graveyard, got rid of a second, and eventually going to have to give it up. But bright side at the end of the day is the ult economy is heavily in favor of DayStar this next fight.
Yeah, Midori invested 3 ultimates into that fight, but I don't blame him. That was a good opportunity to use those 3 ultimates. The Pulse Bomb maybe being the only one that really truly didn't find as much value as you were looking for. The Annihilation got 2. That Animatrix really did help keep everyone alive. Now though, like you said, if you're DayStar, you have 4 good ultimates going into this fight. Yeah, Narwhal's going to be able to build up to a beat here, but it really does seem like Midori has their preferred target, and it always seems to be Narwhal here first.
Yeah, and can you really blame them in a scenario like that? If you can constantly get someone caught out, why not keep going for it over and over and over again? As now, Hero not going to get the beat in time, manually going to get the mega health back right here, is in a bit of a room, and is still finding hit after hit, forcing everybody away. 99% on the board, but 100 it shall not be, as DayStar going to take over, as, again, the ult trade goes entirely in their favor.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Dion did not invest the Annihilation and Narwhal did not invest the beat there. Once they got rid of Hero, they understood that the fight was going to probably be theirs. Triplet just a moment too late with their own beat to keep Hero alive. If that beat hits Hero, you probably see a little bit more of an investment come out from DayStar, but now they're in a really good spot to cycle through ultimates because Graveyard, not that far away from another Animatrix.
Yeah, 100%, and now with the 3 ults on the board, or nearly about to be on the board, we're going to see Dion go in aggressive once again. Gonna get rid of that mortality as Zach ends up getting caught out of all people, as Dion is gonna be forced to back out. Gives the shield back online, as again, you just have to wait for Zach to get back.
Yeah, but right now, the Annihilation gone. Narwhal's still holding on to the beat, so they're not in the worst spot here, but you look at what Midori's coming up to here. Pulse Bomb, Ant Matrix, they're gonna have to build up to Overclock and the Annihilation, but right now, this is the same situation we just saw from DayStar a couple fights ago.
Yeah, Hero, though, gonna get the upper hand this time around. Beat going to be activated. Triplet doesn't have theirs yet online, though, but still manages to help get rid of Dion. Zach will stick the Pulse Bomb as well, as 99% takeover. Things are getting dangerous as Talisman has to use the recall. He's definitely the next touch for the squad as they are going to move in. You see Dion and Graveyard making a bunch of swaps to try to make it back. Good touches coming through, but once again, it could be simply delaying the inevitable, as Dion only gonna be able to block away for so long. Manually wants to keep it going, but again, we're just delaying the 3rd round that'll be coming our way as we're gonna head to City Center to finish off Oasis.
Yeah, and a really good point here for Midori. They really bounced back from, I'm not even going to say it was a bad performance on point 1, but they really kind of fixed the mistakes that they were having there. And it seemed like they really caught out someone that if they get rid of him first, it really does break down a lot of what DayStar wants to do, and that's Narwhal. Like I kind of mentioned, Narwhal was the first one to die, point 1 and point 2 for DayStar, and Narwhal was always a constant first target for Midori. And hey, you get rid of the Lucio, gets rid of speed, gets rid of a lot of speed, gets rid of a lot of healing pretty early on in fights, and Midori took full advantage of that. Triplet as well on the other side, their own Lucio played a very, very safe Lucio. They did not necessarily engage into a lot of fights unless they had a lot of support from their teammates. But now, as we head to City Center, no big swaps. I really thought we would potentially see Cave come back out on the Freya, but no, they're going to be sticking with the Soj. I think that was a much better pick for them last map.
Now, I 100% think it was as well, so we'll see what kind of value it's going to get for Cave in this situation. Manually going to be sticking on it, of course, as well. And both teams pretty dedicated to the style overall. On top of that, Seaborn and Graveyard have both doing really well on that Baptiste. And unfortunately, manually gets pulled down. And for Cave, it is a day at this shooting range. But the same can be said for Talisman, as we're having that trade back and forth coming to fruition. And now it's really going to come down to these Ramachas to be able to stabilize as best they can, as both their Nemesis forms are gone, relying on the shields of the teams to keep them up. Unfortunately for Hero, it's not quite going their way, but Dex, even with some of these majority picks coming through, this fight stays scrappy.
It stays scrappy, and really this fight truly isn't over, even though DayStar does have the point cap. Once Hero gets back in, it's going to be a really quick engage for them, just because they know this fight's not necessarily just over yet. Zach's trying to do what they can in the backline, and Zach actually be able to find Manly. That's such a huge pick, but now Triplet starting to be harassed by a lot of members of DayStar.
Yeah, and again, if they're going to keep swapping out the target like that, I think it's perfectly fine. Keep them on their toes, because once somebody gets targeted once or twice over, you're going to start protecting them, and then that's when you get the opportunity to swap to somebody else and take advantage of that.
And that was an interesting situation there. DayStar definitely had numbers that they could have just tried to stall it on point, but I like them backing up just to get this quick reset, because look what they have. They have Annihilation. They're not that far away from Beat, Amp, Pulse Bomb. But same thing could be said basically for Midori here, who's going to have these same ultimates coming up. Triplet, though, finding Talisman out.
Yeah, not the best case scenario right there. You can say that much for a fact. You're going to see bodies start to back out. Realizing Talisman being down means you can't do a lot, but that's an excellent pull down onto Triplet, who's forced into a weird scenario, and Dion ends up using the Annihilation. Hero doing the exact same, though, as both of them are eventually going to run out. Heroes lasting a little bit longer, as that ends up being a big time killer at the day for Midori.
Time killer, and I mean, you just got rid of the Annihilation and the Amp Matrix there from DayStar. Midori really didn't have to do much there to get that.
Yeah, you see Talisman is literally getting chased around. Eventually, he's going to find a little bit of Serenity. And 60% now on the board. Midori has been able to get away with a lot just playing at this choke, but now double beats ready to go. Talisman has a Pulse Bomb at their expenditure, but Triplet's not going to be able to use that beat as Narwhal decides to go in aggressive with it, try to end this fight right here and now, as Hero being kept up with an Immortality Field momentarily. Talisman trying to hang around, find something, as eventually it looks like Midori is going to fall over. But honestly, despite the fact they lose the fight, Triplet going down and having that beat still might be a blessing in disguise.
It might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, but you see what DayStar has in this next fight. They're going to have Pulse Bomb, which Talisman's still holding on to. Manly, though, has an Overclock. That should really help them at least be able to buy some space. And right now, if you're DayStar, you just want to win a team fight right now. Just try to eat away at that lead, because if you really win a team fight here, you're basically going to be fighting for the lead in the fight after this one. But Beat, Pulse Bomb, Amp Matrix, about to be ready here for Midori. So if they play it slow here, they're going to have some really strong ultimates. But that Pulse Bomb already gone from Talisman. It was a dud.
Yeah, and now this important beat sitting by for Triplet is going to be used very early on, and they're going to run right through Graveyards, all pulling everybody around the corner. Triplet, though, perhaps a little too much luster in that scenario. Seaborn being tossed around, eventually to be taken out. Both supports are now gone. This is going to become that war of attrition. Hero is going to use the ult, which is quite the strategy here. We're going to see whether or not it ends up getting a flip. They will get the flip, though. That is extremely important.
Hero, I understand why they used it there. They wanted to keep themselves alive because no supports were there, but now Dion has an Annihilation essentially for free, and no one on the side of Midori really is going to have an ultimate. Cave might be able to build up to their Overclock, but it's going to be very late in this fight.
Yeah, and Dion is just waiting for the opportunity to slip past and run directly after the Baptiste, who gets over to the high ground as Dion kind of hold on momentarily to this Annihilation as overtime well activated. But the longer this lasts, the more likely you're going to start to be able to build to some of these ults. Zach, though, taking care of one as the all trades beginning to come through. With Hero going down, though, means this one, I was going to say, should come to an end, but manually hanging around to get rid of Seaborn. Everyone trying to collapse in on them, trying to give a little bit of care going in. Cave trying to find the shot eventually. Gonna see the finish off as Graveyard and Co. trying to make it back into the fight. Triplet right around the corner to give a little bit of care support. Finally getting back into the fight as the B has to be expended basically right on the face of their opposition. And Dex, neither of these teams want to give up.
I mean, you see the tanks make swaps to get back in touch here. Dion, they're going to be able to find Zac is a huge one. They had a pulse bomb ready to go. That's really the only ultimate here. Ready to go for either team at the moment, and probably for a very long time to come here. Dion, though, trying to do what they can now in that backline.
Yeah, and eventually Hero going to be forced away from the point. Flip ends up coming through, and now Hero being over the doofus is going to make her a really weird scenario, and everybody going to take the death. Graveyard gets a 3K, holy moly. And now, if I am Midori, I might be making the quick swap back on the things that I swapped up.
You only made 2 swaps here, Hero and Seaborn. Yeah, that's exactly what they do, but look what they have. They have Beat, they have Pulse Bomb. Dion, not that far away from Mines, but you're looking at Manly right now. They can build up to an overclock. This is going to be final fight no matter what here for both these sides. The Beat for Triplet, they could play it, they could use it very early on here, but I think they need to hold on to it until a fight really engages on point.
Yeah, manually is going to be the biggest problem going in, but no, it's another early one. They're going to go in super aggro. Yeah, and that's the problem. It doesn't really do a whole lot. It forced everybody back around, but they didn't have a definitive target to go into, so now Cave is in a weird scenario. Manual is able to use this without anything really stopping them. They're being pushed back, but they have all the care in the world. Hero, bet you have to use that Nemesis form to be able to survive for a little bit longer. Dion getting close to that ultimate, sitting dangerously low, having to essentially hide away, but is pulled back around as Graveyard might have the round-winning ult. Sitting right before our eyes, everybody moving forward. Tailsman hoping to find something with the stick, does not come through. And now Cave is likely gonna have to be the hero for this squad. Manually forced into the corner. Cave helping clear away, and now the overclock here to stay. Just waiting for the right moment to pull it away as it's gonna flip over, but nobody can make it back. It is hard fought, but Midori will take the first round.
A hard fought back and forth. This is what we expected from this series, and I mean, you said it there. That orbital ray probably should have been a map-winning ultimate there for DayStar. The mines really should have been a map-winning ultimate. I mean, I'm not going to say they were misplayed into the wrong spot. I just think Midori was able to maneuver around it all good. They were able to kite everything perfectly there at the end, and that Ramatsu just being a little bit more sustainable really did help him out there at the end. And then that support line as well for Midori. I mean, Triplet and Seaborn were doing so much. I mean, 18,000 healing, almost 19,000 healing for Seaborn. Triplet on the Lucio for the most part, getting 12,000 as well was huge for them. I mean, same could be said about Graveyard and Narwhal. 20,000 for Graveyard. Narwhal got 10,000. I mean, everyone there really played a good map. There's not one person I can stare at and say, you know, they played a little bit rough. No, it was back and forth, kind of like what we expect for the rest of this series.
Yeah, I think that is what 100% we should expect in a situation like this. But of course, when we go to these different map types, we're going to see a lot of different styles, because I think there's a majority of maps where that style is going to be able to get getting away with. One of the maps that I think, at least not to a T, it won't work the same, is going to be our next pick that'll come through from DayStar, and that is going to be Circuit Royale. And this is definitely going to be an interesting one compared to what we just saw in that first matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we already saw what ban number 1 was. That is going to be Lucio. So again, I believe it is going to end up being Midori with the second ban. It's going to be, do you ban out tank? Do you ban out DPS here? Because there are definitely some DPS that you could find a lot of value with. It's going to be Soj, going to be our second ban of this map, which is a surprising one. Again, I mean, Soj finds a lot of value, but I always kind of look at this map as one where you potentially want to ban out something like Freya or something like Mei, because Mei, this is one of the only maps that really Mei gets a lot of play in.
Yeah, not every team ends up doing it, but we do see it, honestly, a pretty large majority of the time. It would not be shocking for either team to pull it out here. We saw it being pulled out earlier, you know, in earlier instances of this map. It shouldn't be surprising in the slightest if they were going to go down the exact same way. But of course, we have to see that from both teams, because while we got to see a lot from them, Circuit Royale, I can't remember an instance of these teams playing it, so I can't necessarily recall what they would play, but I can 100% see a scenario where you go out there and perhaps you put someone like, like Manually in that position, especially with the fact that Manually cannot play the Sojourn this map around.
Yeah, it also looks like Narwhal is going to be being subbed out here for DayStar, and coming in will be Kiwi. And outside of that, doesn't look like we're seeing any subs for Midori as well. But I mean, this is one of the more interesting maps when it comes just to what we really expect to see. Circle Royale, because you could play Yari, you could play Lifeweaver. That's just the support line. Ana finds a lot of value. We already talked about some DPS you could see. Mei, Sim, TP strategies on this map in particular are very, very strong. Freya, Widow, Ashe, Hanzo. We've seen a little bit of Hanzo here. And tanks, I mean, while a lot of people really look at this map as being truly a map where a hero like Sigma finds a lot of value, you start to see teams go away from that kind of style of poke and go over towards Ramatra kind of styles of poke instead, because you have that kind of brawl ability when you really need it.
Yeah, no, 100% is extremely important to have that in a scenario like this, especially as we are just waiting for the last player to be able to get in. Both teams be able to kind of formulate that strategy a little bit more. I think with the Soj and Lucio not being in this scenario, I don't think it changes a whole lot. I think it changes the ability to make those last-second swaps that might come through if something isn't working. Those would be like fine substitute picks, but now we're in a situation where teams are probably going to go back to dedicating towards the Ramatra. You're going to see something like the Mei come out, maybe even the Freya come out. We've even seen instances of Pharah on this map in the past, and it's had some level of success. It's really going to come down to the flexibility of these DPS, quite honestly, because I think that there's a lot of great picks. It just comes down to a team style, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Pharah was one I completely forgot about. I mean, we saw Pharah a little bit earlier tonight in South America, but it was not on this map. But yeah, Pharah, just because of the map's architecture, especially on the first point in general, Pharah finds a lot of value. Could see that Pharah come back in on third point. Venture is another hero you could really expect to see, especially on third point defense or offense, just because they're so good at stalling out and being able to break up a lot of what the defending team wants to do or the attacking team wants to do here. But still, as we wait for the final members to load in, I mean, Midori, that was a really good map win for them. Again, back and forth. Everyone really expects this DayStar team to be one of these best teams. But Hunter, I mean, you were able to talk to Midori a little bit earlier today. And I mean, they did talk about like, hey, if we lose here in Swiss, it's not a big deal. They move on, especially when you're going up against a team like DayStar. But you have to also imagine beating a team like DayStar, who a lot of people are saying this is probably the best team in this tier at the moment. This early on in the season really will give them a boost of confidence.
Oh, of course. You go and beat one of the best teams, no matter how good or bad you've done in those first couple of games, that is immediately a jump of confidence for you in that scenario. And either team can feel that here. I think both teams are good enough to be able to deserve having that feeling. But of course, it's not meant to be easy in the first place. That's why it is so important at the end of the day as we're ready to get things started for our second map. And by the looks of it, DayStar going to be starting out on the attack. And at least in terms of what we're seeing, nothing too surprising. We are currently seeing the Venture and the Alari on display, which, to be fair, on a map like this, at least Alari gets a lot of playtime. And Venture is one of those characters that feels like it has that niche where if you're someone who can pull it off, that can constantly be a fixture in that backline, you can cause so much chaos.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit early, though. I think Venture on the first point defense really struggles just because you have to be so far up. And without a Lifeweaver to potentially pull you back, you are basically having to get yourself in and out of a lot of these fights. So if you don't do it correctly, you might be putting your team down here very early on. But from the side of DayStar, I mean, Iari's showing up, both sides playing Iari. Talisman, though, sticking on the Hanzo. I mean, I talked about potentially seeing the Shamana brother here, but I did not necessarily expect to see it truly.
Yeah, and Kiwi, unfortunately, not long for this world, as you're eventually going to see Zach and their nefarious work coming to fruition directly out the gate. But right now, Hero seems to be the main one people are looking at. The problem is you can look at Hero all you want, but Seymour and Triplet healing together is going to be really difficult to deal with. That's why you're going to see Manually kind of keep a fixture onto them. Unfortunately, the problem is, despite it looking like Hero is simply sitting out in the open, honestly, I love the positioning.
No, great positioning. You have that barrier right there that you can hide behind. Ramatra has his own shield that he can throw up. He's in a really good spot and not that far away from either supports. Hero's kind of in a good spot and really hard spot to get at. But right now, Hero needs support.
Yeah, and that's going to be a bit of a weird trade-out at the end of the day. Talisman, though, is going to find Zach, which is extremely important. Seaborn is going to have to take the L on that one, as eventually they're going to get through this first corner. But to be fair, for what is that first corner to hold on for a minute, that is not bad at all.
Yeah, and you immediately see it, Zach, that venture play was only for that hold. Going over to the Sim now. On the defensive side, Sim does find a decent amount of value, but I feel like they find a little bit more value on the offensive side. However, you're walking into amp matrices from both sides. Cave does have that bullet shot ready to go here, so that could be an opportunity here to get rid of that immortality field pretty early on, allowing someone like Hero and Cave to go in and find a lot of damage.
Yeah, 100%, as everyone trying to commit together. Graveyard gonna let loose behind, try to make something happen. Zach has already been taken care of, and Hero just kind of has to try to hold down the line as bullet shot thrown in. Graveyard, though, has an immortality field ready. So for Cave, it's going to find Diddly Squat. That's going to be a relative quick take there for DayStar, as they're going to get a late kill on a Seaborn.
Yeah, Seaborn could not run away. Zach now going back over to the Venture. I think second point, Venture does find a decent amount more value, especially on the defensive side. But, I mean, for the cost of 2 ultimates there for DayStar, I mean, you got a lot out there from Midori. Cave, though, going to be able to find one, as they will force the rest of DayStar to kind of fall back here and just regroup for the moment. But, I mean, outside of the Captain Sunny Annihilation, I mean, you basically see DayStar have the better ultimate economy at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that is essentially what is happening here. Is a lot online for the moment. Cactus Sun, I think, might be the most interesting to see from both sides, from Kiwi and Triplet. But, of course, Manly hoping to find something with the below. Nice explosion. Zach has been taken care of, and that is an awkward series of events, as Kiwi managing to finish off body after body, ends up getting 3 in that whole sequence, and now they can move forward. Double annihilation set for this next fight.
And that should just be this point. I mean, Cave going over to the Sim, I imagine, just trying to maybe force a fight here. Like you said, those annihilations are online, but, I mean, you're going to need a lot, especially as Graveyard and Talisman not that far away from their own ultimates, which they can build up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and immediately going for that pylon, as Hero literally has to force around the game, but they're being annihilated themselves. They get destroyed, and now there's not a thing you can do. If you're Midori, you just have to feed your body onto the point one after another, as you're going to have 4.5 minutes going into this third point. And if they keep with this momentum, they could end up sitting on a huge time bank.
Yeah, Zach now playing their third hero of this map here, going over to the Hanzo themselves. Cade going back over to the Freya. I mean, right now, it really just seems like Midori, they're just having a really rough round. It seems like they're kind of lost, but DayStar, they're bouncing back here pretty quickly after what was a really close back and forth first map. They want to send a message to Midori here that it's not going to be like that this entire series. And right now, Hunter, they're putting out a little bit of a clinic here on Circuit Royale.
And it definitely seems to be the case, and they have the ultimates to keep backing it up as well, and in fact have a major advantage as of this moment. If they can take advantage of that and stagger out those ultimates and make them worth their while, this could be an absolutely indistinguishable time bank to deal with. But, of course, proof is within the pudding, as to say, as they're going to start moving up this backside high ground. Of course, everybody ready to go. Graveyard nearly getting booped off the side, but double heals going to be able to care for everybody as a nice dragon sent through. Graveyard does end up getting caught, but Kiwi with an amazing finish there.
And right now, I mean, if you're Zach, you might want to just start running away to try to keep yourself alive, because you might be a touch. We're going to probably be forced to see a swap come out here from Midori just to get it back out there and get a touch. You're not that far away from Captain Sun, but you're walking into a Bola and Annihilation. I mean, this is a really tough fight here for Midori.
Yeah, you see Manually just keeping an eye on the high ground immediately. Catching one onto Triplet. A Seaborn has already been disrupted, though. Cabe hoping to keep them alive. Bullet shot basically gets sold onto Cabe, who right now, it's a throwing the ults out, and they end up falling into the pit of death. And now Dion is hoping to try to close it out right here and now, and done so they have. For Cabe, that is a unfortunate scenario. They essentially got pulled off the side with it and could not recover.
Oh, no. Yeah. Unfortunate, but I mean, again, that entire round was just DayStar responding back after a map 1 loss, which again was very close. It wasn't like Midori stole that map from them. No, it was a very close back and forth map, but DayStar, they really wanted to prove a point here, and man, did they prove that point. Almost 3 minutes on the time bank, Hunter, especially on this map, I feel like it's almost unheard of. You don't really see this map really be complete with more than a minute that often. The fact that they have almost 3 is just astronomical, but how does Midori respond here? Because the biggest thing that we really saw, at least from that DPS line, was the fact that they were always kind of just swapping heroes, not every life, but maybe every other life, because Zach and Cave went back and forth between a lot of heroes that round.
They really did, and there's definitely a difference within a lot of that damage from both sides. But the one thing to really, extremely note within the scenario is that tank game as well. Dion ended up going 16-0, never dying once. And the complete opposite can be said for Hero, who didn't end up getting a single elimination, literally ended up tanking nearly 10,000 damage, and just wasn't able to do a lot for their squad here. So the question, as I'm going to basically answer your question with another question, is a decision for them of whether or not they try to play more passive or rely more on their DPS setting their shots, or if they decide to be a little more aggressive with Hero and try to run it down this main a bit more.
I mean, right now, if you're Midori, I think you kind of do need one. Hero not having elimination is not the worst thing. You really need your DPS line to kind of step up and be able to give Hero a little bit of space. Yeah, I always talk about Hero and that playing that tank, really making space, but with playing double hit scan, again, all you really need is one good arrow shot from Zach, and you get a kill. You open up and give a lot of space and freedom to Hero to do what they want to do.
Yeah, definitely finding a lot of pot shots. No one is going down quite yet, though. Immortality Field, though, has to be expended, which is obviously great in this situation from Midori if they want to take a certain level of aggression, as Zach trying to pull that corner, trying to find some kind of shots. Someone needs to take out that healing pylon kind of sitting above, because nobody seems to be minding, but it is eventually taken care of, as everything DayStar doing right now, playing safe, just holding the corner.
Ooh, Talisman gonna be able to find Triple. Zach will trade it right back out, but down one of your supports here. It's gonna be interesting to see what Midori does.
Yeah, Kiwi gets caught twice, and unfortunately, gonna end their life right then and there, but still, the fact that you have Dion alive means it's still a very winnable situation. The problem is, you have to take care of them. Bolo shot thrown in. It doesn't quite catch on, but same can be said for Manually, who does catch on to a couple of bodies, doesn't get any eliminations, though. As it's a rough scenario for both teams, not a whole lot to use now, but everyone coming up to something very shortly here.
Yeah, Captain's got to be ready here. Zach, though, with a Dragon Strike here is... Oh! Had to say their name. I thought that Dragon Strike could be potentially something that gets them that first point, or at least forces out a fight.
Yeah, now Cave being down means, yep, we'll see the retreat immediately here. Of course, though, Triplet gets double stuck, and now they're going to keep pushing. Why not? Why would you stop?
Hero's in the worst spot right now, and now it's going to turn to Seaborn and Zach again. And almost what was a really good start there for Midori, I think all just kind of collapsed right there. Yeah, you're coming up to 3 ultimates, but guess what? There's 3 ultimates ready on the other side as well. And they're essentially the same exact ultimates you're going to have, so you're going to need to find a more value somehow, some way, and Manually not that far away from Ebola. That could be the difference maker here for DayStar holding Midori.
No, it 100% could be, as we're going to see a Kajasan being thrown out. Gets a little bit of value, but eventually Kiwi is going to get one, and Kiwi is just hanging around the high ground. Eventually gets taken care of, as Hero is now hanging around, trying to stay alive, eventually not getting a lot out of that. But the bright side is Kiwi does go down, so they can keep pushing.
Kiwi went down, but the biggest thing in that was Hero actually used their Annihilation. Dion now has a free Annihilation. Granted, you still have now 3 ultimates ready here for Midori, but you're now walking back into 4 ultimates on the other side once Manually gets back.
Yeah, 100%, and of course Dragon is ready to be thrown directly down the way. I think perhaps a little bit earlier than what they would like, but Kiwi getting headshot right then and there by Zach could be the boon that they need. Zach gets a second one on top of that as well. Zach basically gets solo vaulted right into the corner, as Dion just doesn't have the sustain left to keep them alive. Jumps out of the Annihilation to go into the Nemesis form to stagger for a little while longer. Unfortunately, staggering is all you can call it. It's 3 minutes now on the board as well. It might have taken them a lot longer. They still get to push forward.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get to the second point, but I say this, and I say it confidently. I believe this second point push on Circle Royale might be one of the hardest pushes of any escort map in the game. Just going uphill, especially if you lose a fight at any point going uphill, you just put yourself in such a hard hole to get through. And what we've seen from DayStar already is they're not afraid to get aggressive, and already finding Zach out, it's not a good start here for Midori.
No, not particularly, but still, 2.5 minutes on the clock. It's a fair amount of time to work with. Unfortunately, that gets a little bit negated when your team starts dying all around you, and now this is where you're going to see DayStar play as they do. Play aggressive, clean up the fight, leave no survivors if you can.
And again, you're pushing up now. It doesn't matter if you necessarily lose a fight because that cart is slowly going backwards. So even if you lose a fight, there's going to be no way that Midori is even going to cap that second point. So you play aggressively right now. You might even invest an ultimate or two because guess what? You're going to have Midori in using an ultimate, especially that animation and the bola shot coming up here from Cave, just to at least force back DayStar here as DayStar slowly builds up their own ult economy.
Yeah, essentially doing so in this scenario as they're trying to hold out. Going to have a lot right around the corner. Bowl shot thrown in, lots of bodies, but the immortality field is there, manually sitting on literally 1 health. Unfortunately, going to drop down to 0. Now Hero wants to go in aggressive. Gets booped off the high ground, though, so that Annihilation will essentially do nothing, but still, they have found the second pick, which means the rest of DayStar is going to have to back around that corner.
I don't necessarily think it was a boop. I think it was Hero just having to dive back down to that low ground, seeing that Amatrix come out there from Graveyard. So that's one huge ultimate gone, and now 3 ultimates about to be online here for DayStar as, I mean, you do see the card slowly rounding towards this second point, but Hero already very low, and then Immortality Field already gone.
Yeah, and you're going to see that stick onto Hero is exploding around, but still is managing to hang around. Dragon going to be thrown in, causing a little bit of separation. Unfortunately, I don't think it's necessarily going to get the job done that they're intending. Hero is literally going to give their life to try to chase some bodies down. Talisman eventually goes down, unfortunately, for the rest of that squad. Midori falling down, and now with 45 seconds, even with that amount of time, this is realistically the last final and full fight.
This would be a time where I would potentially like to see a sim swap, but with Graveyard and Kimi up on that high ground, the sim would not necessarily work. So right now, you still have a Captain Sun, you have a bola shot ready to go here now if you are Midori, but you're walking into Annihilation, and, well, that own bola shot right there.
Yeah, 100% Annihilation being thrown out, and it's another big cleanup. Hero does manage to get rid of one, but Hero is going to be experiencing a late death because that's what you do in this situation. You have to go all in, kill a Hero, and now they're dead, and now someone has to try to touch. You have to TP out Cave and pray they can get a touch.
Sim and Sombra now on the field. Cave gonna struggle with the Captain Sun out here from Triplet, trying to fly up there, but they're gonna be sucked right back down to the ground, and no one can get there in time. DayStar gonna be able to even up our series at 1, and Hunter, the series that we expect to have, well, we have it now.
Yeah, 100% in this scenario. So now, it's interesting now because that's I would say quite a bit more dominant than what we originally saw on that first point when it came to Midori. That essentially came down to one final big fight. But either way, now that we're in this situation, now we know these teams are going to be able to go back and forth as we hopefully intended, because the amount of times that we've said, yeah, this would be a Clash of the Titans, and then we're leaving 45 minutes with a 3-0, I can't count on my hands at this point. But I am happy to be proven incorrectly within this scenario, and now we have to see what the adjustment's going to be from Midori now that they're on the back foot.
Well, Midori, I mean, they've already decided what our next map is going to be, and it's not a big surprise. We're going to be heading to King's Row. I mean, when you have that map in the map pool, I feel like it's going to be played 9 out of 10 times. But just looking at the stats for this last map, Hunter, I mean, there is one big difference here across the two teams. That comes down to the tank play. I mean, you highlighted it in between rounds where Dion did not die. Dion only died once that entire map. But when you look at Hero on the other side, they died 10 times. Hell, everyone on the side of Midori died at least 10 times, while the most deaths that we saw on the side of DayStar was Talisman with 5. I mean, again, we talked about a little bit earlier on in South America where if that death number is low, you're normally doing something good. And DayStar, man, that was a great performance from them, from almost having 3 minutes on that time bank when they completed the map. And really, outside of one fight there on that first point, held Midori pretty strong on that defensive side.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's what you kind of hope for out of them in the situation right here. Because obviously you have a bit of a worry going into things before as to wonder how these teams can kind of adjust their styles, because it's going to be really interesting going into this next one when we go to this King's Row, where we can talk about our first ban at the very least, and that is Ramatra. Ramatra being taken out is massive because we've seen these teams consistently keep playing this Ramatra, and now you have to stray away from it. And I mean, at this point, they're alternatives to the Brawl, but I mean, with the Ramatra gone, what would you expect to kind of come out here tank-wise going into King's Row?
I mean, the easy answer right away would probably be Orisa. Hazard is probably another one you could expect to see. Outside of that though, Wrecking Ball, maybe it's a weird pick, but I think Wrecking Ball does find a decent amount. Or you could just go straight dive. Winston's definitely a good a variable you could see come out here. But I mean, it's gonna be really interesting because, like we kind of talked about, it's just interesting to see what the dynamic is for these two teams. Venture though, gonna be our second ban. Saw Venture very briefly there from Midori when they were kind of just rotating through DPS lines that last map. But going into this one, I really expect that it's going to probably end up being Orisa or Hazard. Sigma, it would be a weird one. Queen could be something as well.
Ooh.
And you know what? We saw Ryan earlier today, so why not Ryan?
Ryan would definitely be a little bit of a funny hee-haw one for sure, but it's going to be a slightly different story as Venture going to be the other pick here, which, to be fair, we saw Zach get away with some shenanigans earlier. It's not the most unlikely pick, and plus on King's Row, where there is a lot more corners to work around, I think the Venture can get a lot more value in those situations. So going into this next map, I am excited as Hunter may have missed his invite by just a slight bit. Did Hunter miss his invite? I think Hunter might have missed his invite.
Way to go. But I'll tell you this right now, both teams are playing Diva. And Narwhal is back in this map. Kiwi going back out. Kiwi did a really good job last map, but Narwhal coming back in, probably a little bit of a better map for Narwhal, especially with Narwhal playing the Lucio here. But right now, I mean, Cabe is hovering over the Widowmaker. It's probably just for, you know, a normal shot, Seaborn on the Life Weaver to pull them back in. Zach, though, we saw this a little bit earlier, Hunter, in South America, a Symmetra comp coming out here from the attacking side.
Yeah, we'll get this figured out really quick, ladies and gentlemen, because Hunter's a bit of a big old dum-dum in this situation. And we're going to get it going for you momentarily as we're going to bring in our lovely observer, Dexatron, to bring us the action. Let's go ahead and get this pulled up. But, Dex, let's talk about what's happening while we're waiting for it to get pulled up.
Yeah, right now, I mean, Hero already swapping off of the Diva, going back over to the Orisa here. Kind of what we expect to see. Talisman, though. I didn't see them going over to the Symmetra here as early as well, but right now, it's just both teams looking for an opening.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're trying to figure out in a scenario like this. But, of course, we see this fight getting away as we're finally going to be able to transition over, ladies and gentlemen, to the fight that is taking place right before our very eyes. Thank God for that. But as we are getting started away, you are seeing Seaborn gonna lose out on the immortality fielder early on. It's already a minute gone by as you're to see the DayStar squad start to kind of be pushed back a little bit more and more.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, Midori trying to just get set up on point here. Gonna be, I don't think DayStar's gonna give up a tick, but no, DayStar's actually gonna give up a tick here. Ultimate's online here, though, for DayStar. That should really help him out early on.
Yeah, no, 100%. Hero finds that fake. Zach, though, gets traded out pretty quickly, but Hero wants to get this done and taken care of, but their team, unfortunately, isn't able to replicate that same success and eventually be taken out as Graveyard gets a second pick, and now nearly halfway down the clock as Cabe likely to eat the late death. You're trying to hang around. Unfortunately, just cannot be kept alive as Dion will get the necessary care as 2 minutes gone by.
2 minutes gone by. You did get the Kitsune Rush out there from DayStar, but you look at what you're seeing here now from Midori. Seaborn going over to a Kiriko of their own. You're going to have Terry, you're going to have Beat, you're going to have Overclock here right now for K, but Overclock, Bomb, and Beat going to be ready for the same thing here for DayStar. So you're not necessarily in a bad spot, but you cannot afford to lose someone early here if you are DayStar.
No, of course you can. And already a tick has gone by. You could afford to give it the second one, quite honestly, with the way this comp is and how it works, and wait for your right opportunity as manually nearly getting that headshot on to Zach. But of course, Zach has been more than happy to be aggressive throughout the entirety of this series. As Narwhal going to hit the beat along with Triplet Cave, hoping to find something with their own Overclock, but it's going to be traded on instead. And Zach gets the 2K with the Pulse Bomb, and now that is shutting things down. Zach with a third, and you can do as much as you want, Dion. Unfortunately, you're giving up this point on the back of Zach and Seaborn, pulling off some amazing heroics.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need a play like that coming out from Zach, and that was exactly what Midori needed here. Still holding on to 2 ultimates, but 3 ultimates going to be ready here for DayStar as they come into this next engagement. That Photon Barrier, honestly, from Talisman, I think is going to be the most important one. Yeah, they're going to have another Kitsune Rush here, but especially going into Street Face, Kitsune Rush, I think is really only good in the first part and the last part of it. Yeah, you could definitely use it around the bar, but I feel like it finds a lot more value in those other 2 places. But it seems like DayStar really wants to win a team fight here just to try to get back to Arches.
Yeah, desperately wanting to get back there, eating all of that damage right there, as eventually going to see Hero try to find something with the Terra Surge. Not getting a whole lot, but it is causing more and more separation, more and more damage as they're going to get well beyond the archway. Big cleanup, as this is definitely a better form than what we saw Midori last map.
Yeah, Midori, I mean, both these teams bouncing back after losing a map here. Midori right now doing a really good job just kind of casually pushing through the map. And they're just doing what they need to do. Hero's just being doing a really good job just kind of controlling the pace of the game here at the moment.
100%, but of course, gotta start playing a little aggressively. TP was activated, and Hero seems a little more focused on the TP than everybody that went up towards that high ground, as Dion, of course, has a bomb sitting by ready to go, as both teams have essentially traded places a little bit. Always love to see it, but Zach is gonna have a pulse bomb around the corner. Unfortunately, pulse bombs are not usable while you're in the spawn room, unfortunately, as manually getting a second pick on top of that means eventually Midori gonna have to take a reset here, as Hero should be able to live this fight.
They're gonna be able to reset here. 2 minutes on the clock though, and you are coming up to almost all your ultimates right now. Cave kind of lagging behind, but same thing could be said for DayStar. DayStar, though, a little bit better ultimate economy coming up here. That photon barrier from Talisman is gonna be the one I'm really watching out for here early on. They really need to use, just kind of split up that point and just buy some space for Dion to potentially get in that back line.
Yeah, 100%. Zach still has the pulse bomb though, but there's so many also available at this stage of the game for DayStar. It's a question of what do they want to try to use to make this happen manually. Nearly getting speared is once again Dion doing everything they can to annoy this Orisa. I mean, that's exactly what you want to do as a diva, make that tank's life a living hell. As we're getting into this one, pulse bomb comes out. Zach again, a 2K stick. Zach's just becoming the unstoppable monster. And with 1:15 left on the clock, all Dion can do is die on the cart, as Talisman last touch, as eventually we'll see a cap come through with about 2.5 minutes on the clock for the Midori squad.
Hero now pushing up, just going to buy some space, but that will guarantee them that second point. And now 2.5 minutes to go here to either complete the map or get as far as they can. But now, I was going to say 4 ultimates ready for DayStar, but Dion going over to the Orisa as well, just recognizing that the Diva was probably not going to work as well as they thought it would anymore.
Yeah, 100%, but we'll see what the case is going to be in this scenario here, as Talisman has the TP ready to go. Unfortunately, not going to get a ton of values. Beats have to be expended by both sides, as manually trying to find something with this overclock, but the Terror Surge comes through, nearly separates his Hero, can't survive through it. It's a big exchange by both sides, but once again, the big exchange going to go the way of DayStar, as Triplet just going to take a bit of a reset as they are chasing Cave down, as Cave just has to run for the hills.
They're going to be able to do that right there, but you did get out every ultimate from the side of DayStar right there if you're Midori. Granted, you also used all yours. You're only going to have the Consuming Rush here pretty soon, and you almost got rid of Graveyard. That would have been a huge opening pick.
Well, no, it would have been massive, but unfortunately not going to happen for this DayStar squad. But still, they're doing a really good job, but Midori has the ability to kind of pull things around and push past these corners very aggressively, and sometimes that is off the back of Zach, who's now over on that Symmetra as well, trying to burn away on that D, which, to be fair, I love that idea, but Dion getting burnt away very quickly as the rest of the DayStar squad has to back out and just take their time for one more fight.
And right now you just see Hero and Cave just trying to build what space they can here. Hero doing a really good job of it at the moment, but they're going to eventually have to fall back here. Dion and Talisman do have their ultimates ready to go, and they could combo them, but it's probably not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I would say so right here. Manually being taken care of already means that door is opening wide, and that's where you see Talisman invest. Dion is going to play a little bit safe here, and you're going to see them back off. They realize they can't really do much in this scenario. They're going to TP to the high ground instead, where they can find as much value in the world as they would like. The problem is, though, Zach doesn't necessarily get that value, as Triplet ends up getting the beat. Hero is around the corner from having their own Terra Surge, as Dion not getting a whole lot of value from their own. A shield being used, they're getting pulled back into it. And nobody wants to die in this scenario, Dex. Everybody wants to keep fighting and fighting. Escape is going mega aggro. It doesn't pay off, though. Is manually coming up alive, but unfortunately not for very long. Be activated. It's at least going to bring it over to overtime, Dex, but it is quickly starting to fall apart for Midori.
It is quickly starting to fall apart, but they still do have numbers at the moment, especially with Hero being alive. I mean, if you can get rid of Graveyard, you might be actually able to complete the map here, but still you see the members of DayStar coming right back out.
Yeah, with the spawns being that close, it's so difficult. Dion has all that block to be able to expend as well, trying to get the assassination onto Triplet, and it does work, mind you. Unfortunately, though, manually isn't able to survive. Double supports out there, and it's just Graveyard to stall it out a bit longer. Tailsman, last person standing, trying to TP in and out. Unfortunately, doesn't get back the second time. It is an excellent cleanup and comeback there from Midori to finish off the map. It might not be a time, but you got to be happy to finish that one out.
Oh, absolutely, man. You just look at the stats here. I mean, look at the difference. Hero doing a lot of work there that round. 23 limbs, 2 deaths. I mean, they were just doing so good on the Orisa. And like I kind of mentioned, like we were both kind of talking about, the fact that Dion only died 1 time in the entirety of last map was just insane. But Hero right now putting up the same kind of performance right now on this map, only dying twice there. Dion, though, did a decent amount of job. I mean, almost 15,000 damage mitigation there, especially going from D.Va over to the Orisa. But I felt like they just stuck on D.Va maybe a little bit too long there that round. Why am I staring at a pole?
I don't know. It's a good-looking pole, to be fair. You know, give it some credit. But either way, yeah, we're going to get ready to set up now. Is you have to try to replicate the success if you are DayStar. And to be fair, we have been shown before they are definitely capable of doing so, as Dion is just working with the one brain cell left in there as they're just having a little bit of fun.
What a view to go to right there by me.
This is our expert observer, ladies and gentlemen. You know, but
don't hire me.
Oh gosh. Either way, it seems Dion is going to be sticking on this D.Va, at least from the forefront perspective, which, to be fair, if there is no Symmetra sitting by, which they're going to realize there isn't, there's no one particularly on this squad on Midori that's going to be able to shut it down easily.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the Orisa on the other side from Midori, it's going to be really hard for Dion or for Hero to do everything they want to do, especially as they can just, they're just stuck to the low ground while Dion can quickly go up to the high ground, especially with the TPs from Talisman.
I don't know, 100%. Now, moving forth, trying to go with the assassination over on a Seaborn, literally 1 health as they TP out. It's already becoming a desperate situation as all that damage being thrown through. Seaborn being taken care of, and Midori is just trying to survive. Unfortunately, they're getting annihilated on the spot. Narwhal is eventually taken care of, but to be honest, it's a very small speck in the comparison of what has happened to the rest of the Midori squad, that if they're burnt away late, a retouch might not even happen.
Yeah, I mean, Zach just going to hide Triplet. They were going to die there no matter what. Zach, though, just has to kind of wait for the rest of the team to get back, as I have to imagine they're going to go for a touch here, especially with Zach kind of hanging around. But no, I don't know if they're going to go for a touch. They're just going to try to play at archers instead.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't know if I blame them right here, because you can make that, but if you lose that fight, you cannot play the archways, and I think it's way better to play the archways. Of course, you would love to hold on first point, but that archway is such a dominant place to hold.
It really is, as you see the TP come out there to just get them on top of that high ground. And you already see Midori is trying to back up right here, get kind of set up, especially with Zach dying very late there. There's no Tracer to really apply pressure. And now if you're Midori after the round you just had, you're slowly starting to slip and let it go away here, as DayStar is just doing what they want to do.
Of course they're going to do what they want to do in this scenario. If they feel they're this confident and can make it happen, why not? As they're going to be pushing forward. Manly, though, does get deleted very quickly. Nice little stun as Graveyard getting super low. TP expended, and Cabe decides to immediately get out of dodge. Says a little friendly hello, hi to Graveyard as well. I was going to say, it looks like they should win the fight, and to be honest, it looks like they still will, with just Dion hanging around. The problem is they've already lost quite a bit of their forces, and Dion getting demech means they have to bomb just to remech and maybe get out.
They're going to be able to get out because of it, and you see the rest of DayStar just getting set up. And look, they're already pushing the cart here. Ultimates, though, online here for Midori. You got to have 4 really, really good ones. Only 3 ready to go right now for DayStar, on only really one of them being what I would say one you have to really watch out for getting kills. However, Photon Barrier and Beat will be able to get you through a lot here, especially early on in this fight.
Yeah, 100%. Little under 4 minutes on the clock. Could be extremely important as B going to be expended by both sides. Both will come out successfully, thus so. Mainly, though, he's just getting pushed back harder and harder, but Cabe ends up being the first casualty of this fight, and that's a really unfortunate scenario. The one person who had a big ult remaining, as Hero is going to expend theirs, eventually going to force one onto Narwhal, but unfortunately, with the Symmetra having all of this room to work with, it's just going to be really hard for Hero to be able to survive.
Yeah, it really wonders to me how much longer is Hero going to stay on this Orisa, especially on the defensive side. Symmetra's going to find so much value. Already see the level 3 beam going their way. And just being able to get charged up incredibly quickly makes it a difficult thing for the rest of their team to deal with.
Yeah, you see the trades coming through, but the problem is even with those trades, as you are to see Hero swap over to the Zarya, which I love the fact of making the swap to the Zarya. The question is Dion now going to find any struggles walking into a Zarya? Oh, nope, they might be swapping again. No,
back over.
I don't know.
I don't know. I was with you. I kind of like the Zarya pick, but again, it's just a thing where the bubbles, Sim can just get charged off that end at the cost of losing almost 0 ammo.
That is a fair enough point right there. As soon as see them push back, KA hoping to find something here, but no one's really in a scenario to be caught out. That's amazing separation right there from DayStar to basically make that ult do nothing but take away a few seconds of time as Cave dies anyway.
Cave just going a little bit too far forward there, and look what this does here now to Midori as they're trying to buy some time and buy some space.
100%. Triplet going down early as Hero getting more and more pressure. Unfortunately, Zach going to be taken down as well. As now 3.5 minutes on the board here. Remember, if they finish with a minute or more on the clock, there is no shot for Midori to win this game.
And right now, that looks like exactly what they're going to do here. Still 3.5 minutes to go. Midori is really going to have to come alive here on the defensive side, and they've been struggling into this DPS line. Most importantly right now, Dion's doing a good job, but Manly and Talisman are coming into a world of their own here.
Yeah, 100%. 3 minutes on the board. Hero has to try to stay alive. You see all that damage being negated from them. Has to eventually use the shield as Tails been hanging around behind right now. Going to end up using the wall manually. Has already taken care of business. As you have to throw in the ult. Hero needs to find just something, but there's nobody to get. And it's a day at the field here. As Midori, no chance of winning anymore, are fighting for a draw. As DayStar gets a whopping 2 minutes and 52 seconds.
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking about it there. Hero only had 2 deaths after that first round. I believe Dion had 5. Dion, I don't think ever died. Hero died 5 times, but again, that was just a really rough round for Midori. The stats really did even themselves out after that entire round, but just look again, the damage mitigation there for Dion. 23,000, 12,000 for Hero. I mean, Dion's been playing D.Va, which again, just a hero that eats up damage, and they were doing a really, really good job. And I really want to see Hero potentially make the swap off of the Orisa because I just didn't think it was truly working for them there that round.
I don't really think it was either. And the problem is you can only try so much. That Ramattra being out of rotation makes it really difficult to deal with the Symmetra because Ramattra is definitely one of the better things to deal with that character. Unfortunately, while Orisa does have her strengths, one of those does not come in the form of being able to go against a Symmetra. You can say the same thing about a D.Va as well. If anything, right now, the Hazard is something that isn't a bad pick going to that, and that's what we're going to see brung out by Hero to try to hold on. But the question is, what are you willing to try right here if you're DayStar to finish this out quickly, or are you willing to take your sweet time?
I mean, you have 1 or 2 fights that you can really take here, and you do see a lot of the members of DayStar going through Heroes, just making sure they have perks ready to go in case, you know, worst comes to worst, they have to make swaps. But I think sticking with this D.Va is the right way to go, but I like Hero also going over to the Hazard, a little bit more sustainability, and they don't have to worry about, you know, the TP from Talisman getting Dion up to high ground. So Dion, actually, no, they're not playing the D.Va this time. Instead, it's straight to the Orisa.
And they're going to go right on the point and just shield up here as Hero has to walk right into the belly of the beast, but the belly of the beast is a little more tame than we had expected, as it is a bold strategy to go in there, try to TP and just make it happen. Does not work though, as Graveyard gonna take the late death, and we're gonna see no swaps as they're gonna stick with it.
I'm surprised there's no swaps because I really would have expected to see just something here, but they must believe that this Orisa into this Hazard is going to be the best thing for them. But if Talisman, I mean, right now I'm looking at Talisman being able to build up to that level 3 beam. If they can do that, it's going to be very, very difficult for Hero or anyone on the side of Midori to really just be staring them down.
Oh, 100% it's going to be difficult right now, but it takes one person going down like that to create a catastrophe as, yeah, I mean, literally nobody touched. They're playing up, they just TP through, and it's just... It's a rough scenario right there. Not what Midori is hoping for. Dion hitting them with the classic C9 there. Whether that is or isn't is pretty clear. But what's most important is that now DayStar is sitting on match point and has probably more momentum right now than they've had the entire series thus far.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 1 second.
Yeah,
These aren't as good as they used to be.
no, it's all good. You had to do some work there. I appreciate you coming through clutch. I promise I won't miss the invite this time. Stupid me.
Yeah, but I mean, again, DayStar basically just picking up right where they left off from Circle Royale. Even though with Midori having a really good first round there, yeah, they completed the map in overtime, but still, completing King's Row is difficult no matter what rank you are, no matter what competition it is. Midori able to complete the map, I think gave both me and you a little bit of confidence that, you know, they had learned or really just bounced back from their performance on Circle Royale. But then we saw DayStar attack, and it was kind of the same problem that we were seeing on Circle Royale, just the reverse of it. On Circle Royale, we were seeing Midori make swap after swap after swap on that DPS line, and we thought that kind of hurt them a lot. Instead, though, they decided to stick with their guns this time around when they really needed to make swaps. I think the Orisa was something that lasted a little bit too long. I think that DPS line, they did make swaps actually throughout that defensive round, but it just wasn't at the right ones at the right time.
Yeah, and you can obviously appreciate a team that is willing to go through and start making those swaps, because you're not a team that learns if you're not willing to make swaps and make changes when something isn't working. You don't want to necessarily have to die on that hill. But obviously, it is a question of when to make those swaps, and unfortunately, it was, again, a scenario where the way that DayStar is playing, it was hard to make what one would feel like an appropriate swap in that time, because I've been there personally, where you make those swaps and it feels like no matter what you try, I go Orisa, I go Diva, I go Mauga, nothing feels like it's quite working, so your brain kind of keeps focusing on, hey, let's keep swapping, let's make something work, and then eventually it'll happen, and unfortunately, a lot of the times, it just doesn't.
Yeah, and I think the hazard that we saw there from Midori in that overtime round, I think that might have been the way to go there on that defensive round. But again, just a little bit timid to make swaps there. Granted, that was a much better map for Midori when you look back at what Circle Royale was. But I mean, again, you have to kind of look at the tanks. And the tanks have been really important for both these teams in a lot of this series so far. Map 1, I really do feel like Hero played a really excellent map over someone like Dion. Dion, though, these last two maps is kind of coming to a world of their own. Almost 25,000 damage mitigated that last round is just insane, considering when I'm looking at the damage that Midori's DPS line threw out on that map being just under 22,000 damage. So essentially, you just got rid of that entire DPS line there by yourself if you're Dion. Playing excellent tank, but still, same thing. Talisman and manually, especially with that Symmetra that was coming out there from Talisman, we saw it just do a lot. We saw that Symmetra TP strategy really work out in NA, unlike we did in South America earlier today.
Yeah, definitely worked out way better here in North America. But now the question is how you want to go about it here, because the Ramatra is going to open back up. So will the I'm being dumb and forgetting the Adventure. You are correct, Venture. I was going to say Sojourn, but Sojourn was the Circuit Royale ban. I remember things sometimes. But of course, we are waiting on that secondary ban from DayStar. Obviously, it has to be either a tank or a support, as we're waiting for these lineups to finalize, as we're waiting for the reveal of that second pick. And we're wondering if we're going to see any swaps here, because obviously we saw Kiwi come in on that second map to play that Iliari, and with our next map that I definitely never showed, being Runasapi, the Iliari is definitely something that's quite unlikely here.
It's not, I don't think it's as unlikely as you truly think, but I think Lucio is still probably the way to go. So that will probably mean that Kiwi's gonna, stay on the bench, and Narwhal will still play here for DayStar. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Narwhal has been playing a really good series so far. If they do bring Kiwi in, I mean, it will probably be to play something like that ER, potentially maybe even an Ana, which you do see from time to time here. Yeah. But like you mentioned, Ramatra's back in play now. Ramatra and Orisa do find a decent amount of value here on this map. Our second ban, though, is actually going to be Baptiste. A hero that we've seen both teams play here throughout the series, but I think Midori has been finding a little bit more value compared to DayStar on that Baptiste throughout the series.
I would be happy to agree in a scenario like this. Seaborn has always gotten a lot of value. Seaborn is one of the standouts when it comes to talking about the Baptiste within the NA Masters division, as Hunter has accepted the Faceit invite in time. Huzzah, please cheer for me, everybody. But now it's a scenario with that Baptiste gone, you're likely going to be going over to the Kiriko Lucio and potentially keeping that Ramatra. I think you could still make something like the Hazard of the Diva work, but both of these teams looked really comfortable on the Ramatra previously, so it wouldn't surprise me if we just go back to that mirror style.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I expect to see. I mean, the hit scan players have been really showing us that they are not afraid to necessarily make a little bit of a difference between the two, whether it be Cassidy, Soj, or Freya being it. But I feel like Soj is probably the way to go here. Cassidy, I would not be surprised if we see them as well. Again, we talked about it at the start of the series. Cassidy's just in a really strong spot right now in the game, so it's could be something that we see. And I mean, with this map having its high ground points, but a lot of it being very flat areas, Cassidy, I feel like being just able to stick to the ground a little bit does find a little bit more value, even though that's a weird thing to say because a soldier can dive or jump up to those high grounds very, very easily here.
I know 100% it could happen, and now you've got to wonder what these teams are going to expend here as we're going in to our fourth and, hey, potentially final map in this scenario, which obviously you would love to see this go the absolute distance, but the way things have been going for DayStar, this is entirely a scenario where they could come through, get a big lead right out the gate here on Murasaki, and potentially seal this one up.
Yeah, but coming out of the gate, like we kind of expected to see, it's going to be a... I'm not going to talk about Manly. It's going to be probably a mirror match here. Zach and Talisman, though, actually showing us the Venture over the Tracer. I think that's actually not a bad thing. I think Venture finds a lot of value on this map, just being able to burrow themselves into the ground. But yeah, there we are. Mirror match across the board, kind of like we expected, but without the Tracer here, Venture was going to show up. So, I mean, it's going to be really fun to see this. But right now, if you're Midori, I just have to think, if you're them, you really have to get off to a very, very strong start here. Because, Hunter, me and you have seen this map be just one where you can come back very, very easily on.
You 100% can, and you're looking for a good beginning. Like you have just said right there, if you can find a super early pick right here and manage to catch out Dion or Narwhal or someone like that, it can be massive. And you're already seeing Hero and Squad running it down, taking a bunch of this space right here. Talisman barely escaping with their life intact, as they're going to keep getting pressure too. This is relentless here from Midori. Just keep railing on that pressure as Manually is forced way out, but eventually will get care.
And let's go back to map one, the one map that Midori has won so far. Focusing on Narwhal was probably the one thing that really led them to winning a lot of the fights, and probably that map in general. So if you focus on Narwhal here, it could be something where you end up winning fights and just get a good lead here to get started.
Yeah, and Triplet gets all the pressure on the road, but Talisman ends up being the bitter side of that one. But unfortunately, Hero just took too much damage at once, gets burnt away, and now you have to kind of just invest here and try to find somebody. And Triplet might go and help with the assassination attempt, but unfortunately, they just have to try to get out with their life instead.
They should be able to on Lucio. I mean, they're just going to speed themselves out there. But right now, you probably, if you're Triplet, need to go back and just get Hero here as fast as you can. Losing Zach, that's costly. That might almost be something that you give up the lead over to DayStar right now. And you look at DayStar, you have your Consuming Rush. You're not that far away from the overclock. Granted, I mean, Cave's at the same kind of point, but Seaborn not having that Consuming Rush ready to go here, you could see this DayStar team get aggressive and get aggressive fast.
Yeah, really close to going down there was Manually, as lead is taken here by DayStar, and it could be a significant fight if they are to win it out and get that checkpoint as Consuming Rush activated, traded out immediately by Seaborn, and now it is between Cave and Manually to try to make something happen. Cave being the one to strike right out the gate. Dion does have that Annihilation ready, but obviously I think wants to try to hold on to it, back up, and just rejoin the rest of their group.
I mean, right now, if Midori can find one more pick, that will definitely force DayStar back just long enough that potentially they could get the lead and have a fight on that first point, or by that first checkpoint for Midori here. But Beat's going to be ready for both sides. Annihilation's going to be ready for both sides. Overclock's out for both sides.
Yeah, pretty immediately. Beats being expended as well. Complete trading. That's now Annihilation used by Hero and Dion as well, but it's Dion getting the better side of things as Narwhal caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, but Hero has now gotten rid of two, just doesn't really have the support that they need, as it's still going back and forth. Hero, though, is remaining on top, and Triplet is more than happy to keep joining them, as they're going to be able to keep pushing forward, at least momentarily, as Talisman's actually investing.
And I like this. They understood that right now you only have your tank and a DPS here for Midori. Yeah, for DayStar, my bad. If you use that Satana Shock, you're going to get your support line back, and you would definitely force back Midori there. Smart play there, honestly, by Talisman, just to make sure they did not give up the lead. And now no ultimate's really ready here. Graveyard, though, they used that Consuming Rush last fight, basically, at the start of it. They're going to have another Consuming Rush here momentarily.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely important to have this thing early on, and I don't know if you see it coming if you're Midori here, because you know Seaborn doesn't have it yet, but Seaborn does get rid of Talisman right before that happens, so now You can do an easy peel here, but Hero was a little bit separated. Quadruple punch right into the face of Cabe, deleting them away, and now you're gonna see death happening on the point. Everybody gonna just configure onto the point, die there, eventually draw it out. Unfortunately, though, it's gonna be late death for Triplet and Seaborn, who will go down on the cart, thankfully. Question is, will they make it in time for one more fight?
I don't think this is the case where they can make it back out. I mean, I don't think. I think they're going to have to give up first point here right now. First checkpoint over to DayStar, which isn't the worst case scenario here, but you really cannot allow them to get much after that. You do have your own concern. You're not that far away from beat. However, you're going to be lacking a little bit in that annihilation, where if Dion uses that right now, Triplet's not going to have that beat ready to go.
You see pressure being brought immediately, basically getting them out of the fight. Continuing Rush was used, so now, again, Graveyard's going to have theirs essentially for free, and Triplet might have to hold on for that beat specifically for that, as Hero pushed away from the fight, as beat, it has to be expended, and now Norwal right around the corner from having theirs, and Hero, using Nemesis form, is just incredibly separated from their squad, as they needed something on manually, and instead have to invest, and they die with the annihilation! Oh. As Midori's going to fall apart at the seams, and that could be a costly mistake.
Still, though, 5 minutes left on the time bank, but when this bot gets back to the barrier, they're just going to be able to push it free, not going to have to wait for it to do its little animation. It's just going to be building onto that lead, and that was a costly fight there for Midori. Annihilation, beat came out, Kitsune Rush came out, and as you talked about, Graveyard already has another Kitsune Rush ready to go here. They've been able to build these things up very, very quickly. Talisman gonna have Tectonic Shock, and the Annihilation has nothing you have to worry about on the other side, so once there's a big fight going on, Dion is essentially free to use it.
Yeah, and I mean, Zach just getting blown to smithereens. As Talisman and squad gonna start moving forward, and excavation being used here as well, trying to find an extra body or two. Rough scenario, as eventually gonna be able to get out alive, as now 90 meters and counting, probably gonna get to 100 and counting. As Triplet down means you can't really hard engage into this fight, and this may be DayStar starting to run away with it.
Yeah, especially with Dion finding 1-2, almost victory right there. But essentially, this fight, I mean, Hunter, they're just going to have to reset here very quickly because they are rounding the home stretch.
Yeah, it's getting very scary as there's a quick pause going on here. Not sure what the issue quite is right here. But we'll have to see what the situation is, because we have no indication quite yet.
Yeah, it looks... I don't know what you means, so that's a new one.
I think they're asking if
at the moment, I mean...
I think it's if you paused is my assumption.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the moment, I mean, DayStar has this map in their control, and Dion just holding on to this annihilation. I mean, there's definitely been opportunities for them to use it, but they understand right now. They have a huge lead. They don't truly need to use it.
No, it's true. Like, they could go into the scenario, and obviously, I think there is a certain thing that clicks in your head of, hey, we could end things right here and now with one more giant fight. And that is technically true. However, what if you go all out, use all those ultimates, and you don't win the fight? Then it's a scenario where maybe there are some things that, you know, Midori was able to hold on to, and if they can win back-to-back fights, that is momentum going towards them. And Dex, we have seen, despite the fact this is 116 meters to 25, we have seen this comeback. We have seen this comeback much further apart than this as well. It is entirely doable, but it's going to come down, I think, a lot to how safe DayStar decides to play this, because if they just simply go into this fight, play it dry, try to get some stuff off of Midori, I think that is a best-case scenario for them.
Yeah, and we're still kind of waiting for this pause here to be lifted, so either that, I mean, essentially this is one-fight territory right now for Midori, and you're going to have two ultimates, but granted, I think the two ultimates that DayStar is going to have here are a little bit stronger at the moment. But, I mean, right now, I'm just going to take a look at the stats if I can. Yeah. I mean, Dion, again, they are putting on a masterclass this series. No deaths on this Ramatra. And granted, they've been low several times. I mean, Talisman, I think, saved them the closest time they ever got to dying this map. They've been doing such a great job here. And so far, like, this is a tank player that I am very, very interested in watching, because they have just been putting on a show. But I mean, for Midori, I mean, ever since that first map, you had the struggle on Circle Royale. It felt like you finally figured something out a little bit on King's Row, but now it's just all starting to fall apart again.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty specifically how it feels like, as I'll just cut back over to us momentarily, as we're going to get this figured out. I don't know how to unpause it. So there's a couple ways for that to happen, but one of them is indeed Faceit. Means you have to go through them and get that taken care of really quick. So that'll probably not take long whatsoever, as they'll get it talked about and get it taken care of really quick as they contact an admin to get it unpaused. But now you say to yourself, 4 minutes still on the clock here. It is still plenty of time to work with. But obviously you kind of have to just, be ready for Midori for the long haul, because this is gonna be so difficult to pull off, but it is doable.
Yep, and looks like that time is starting to shift down, so we're going to be going right back in now. Annihilation, though, is ready here for Dion. Manually, I talked about them having that second ultimate, but they just died. So it's not going to necessarily be an opportunity for them to use that second ultimate, but if DayStar sees that they have an opportunity here to end this map, that Annihilation could come out, because Manually will get back here pretty soon.
Yeah, it could be pretty important as Salesman gets super low and in fact has to basically run for the hills and unfortunately has no cooldowns left. The fact that no one is in there is a minor miracle, as eventually Cabe is coming up online to try to find somebody, some shots, but instead it's Manually who wants to try to pull off the deed instead. Force back, hedges it onto Seaboard as Manually tries to hit the 80 straight. Doesn't quite go in their favor though. As the trade out, DayStar can't be too mad about it, is they're once again going to do a small regroup.
And I mean, right now, Midori cannot push his cart uphill. It's just going into an uphill battle, not necessarily the best thing, but Hero now in a really, really bad spot. That Annihilation has to come out.
Absolutely has to. Beat going to come up online, though, as they're going to be able to survive. Hero, though, does manage to get rid of Narwhal, which means you can't build up to a beat yourself, and Dion instead going to hit the Annihilation. Zac is taken care of. Remember, there's no other ultimate sitting by, so the best thing you can do is just pull the corner, wait for it to run out, as you're going to see Graveyard move forward. Try to cause a bit of a shift right here, as you will see eventually Triplet and Seaborn reunite with each other. Cave being caught up onto, but will be kept alive in time. As Narwhal with the speed still hanging around, is once again, they're able to just regroup together so easily.
And again, I mean, still, they're just begging Midori to come in here and win a team fight. And honestly, at this point, just begging them to kill Dion, because Dion's still unkillable almost 8 minutes into this game.
Yeah, B comes up online right here, and Triplet gets booped right back to the spawn room. As all-out aggression is going to be the name of the game, and Narwhal has gotten rid of two, hoping for a third, but their DPS there to help clean things around. Is 2 minutes left on the board, and that meterage has not changed at all since.
It really hasn't right now for this team, and they are just looking for anything at the moment. But, I mean, Talisman, Tectonic Shock ready to go here. You're about to have a Kitsune, you're about to have Overclock. I mean, still, you're in one-fight territory right now if you're DayStar, and you really want to probably complete this map because it gives you a little bit more confidence and, hey, a little bit more bragging rights.
Yeah, exactly, but Manually has been taken care of first, so once again, the opening comes through as Narwhal is forced to back out, but this time around, there is no big regroup that's available for DayStar, as everyone's just kind of playing up. Tailsman is in a bit of a weird spot, but they're on Venture, so they get that get-out-of-jail-free card to kind of get out of dodge, as once again, it's a fight win for Midori, but how much can they realistically get out of it now?
I mean, right now, you see that time bank, a minute. They're coming up to 4 ultimates at the moment, and Kitsune Rushes are going to come out here. Hero might have to use the Annihilation here just to make sure they reset spawns.
I mean, there's no possibility right now. Big separation right now is Hero. I mean, trying to do what they can. They eventually get one, but Dion has already helped clear the house. Hero, last one standing, will get burnt away, and with 45 seconds and counting, this has to be one hell of a run for Midori to keep themselves alive.
It is a big uphill battle right now for Midori in this series and in this map particularly. Yeah, you have 3 ultimates, but still, you're gonna have to deal with a lot of ultimates from the other side. And even if you get started pushing, 30 seconds left to go right now. Tectonic Shock's not that far away, or far away here for both of these ventures, but still, you have Annihilations on both sides. About to have beats on both sides.
Yeah.
Oh, you had beat ready for Midori.
Yeah, you did. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case, and now Hero and Cave just have to go all out, expend everything to make this happen. As Cave really hanging around. It looks like eventually fight should go in their favor. Hero helping catch them out, as it will take quite a bit, but Manually still in the background and got rid of Triplet again.
Almost there. Just stay on target.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge pick right there, but I mean, this is overtime, and
Oh, no!
you have Hero going back for them. Like, they need to be on the cart. Dion has Annihilation. They could end this map and end the series now.
And they're gonna go in. Beat has been expended. Seaborn is down. Triplet can't even get back with the beat. You see Dion just holding there, knowing that this game is done. Triplet can't expend the beat at all, manually able to have clear things away. And it's DayStar keeping the undefeated streak alive as they take down Midori 3-1.
And I mean, hey, we go back to the first map of this series. Very back and forth. Midori was able to put together really two really good final points on Oasis. But then we saw Circuit Royale and DayStar. They looked like a completely different team. In Midori, it's like they lost a couple steps. Kings Row, well, they were able to find their steps. DayStar still put on a hell of an attacking round where they had over 2 minutes to get just one tick, and then we go into this map here. And what did I stress about coming into it? You really needed a hot start if you were Midori. Well, hey, they got a little bit of a hot start getting those 25 meters, but they were never getting another meter after that there. DayStar just came right back in and kept that momentum. And again, we talked about a little bit between map 3 and 4. Just the tank play coming out from both. Hero, yeah, they played a really good series, but when you compare it to what Dion did this series, it's a huge difference. Dion played such an incredible tank this entire series. One death, that entire last map by themselves, and it really came in the final 2 minutes as well, in a fight that DayStar knew that they were probably just going to give up.
I mean, yeah, that is exactly what happened in that situation. And to be fair, I mean, fair play to Midori for keep trying to fight, keep trying to stay in it. But it just became more and more prevalent as we continue that DayStar had this situation figured out, their style and how they wanted to go about kind of breaking down Midori in a lot of these fights. And when we finally loop back around to going back to that same Ramattra style, DayStar just had that confidence very clearly in their hands and just kept running with it. I mean, they take that massive meter advantage, and then what we see in a lot of these scenarios, for the next half of that map, all they do is basically win trade. They'll win a fight, they bring back all the way, they will lose a fight, do a small regroup, and then invest to take it back. And you just repeat that process, and Midori just can't do a lot about it in that scenario.
Absolutely, but I mean, hey, this was a tough start for Midori in this series. I mean, it started off good for them, but like I kind of mentioned, it just kind of started to fall apart once they got the Circle Royale. But I mean, this is a really tough start of the season for Midori, just in general. Right now, they did win their first two against Iliad, Artemis, and Amplify, but now they lost to DayStar. They play In Control next, and Emote Down Mid, who right now, Emote Down Mid has been one of the surprises to me, considering they came out of the gate kind of slow. DayStar, though, 2-0, one of the only remaining undefeated teams left. The only, I believe, 3-0 team in NA Masters at the moment is, Extinction Zero. Granted, that can change. There's still a couple undefeated teams who have yet to play their second or third games, but there's still a lot of good teams left here. And I think DayStar picking up right where they left off from last season. Again, this is the Dreamland squad from last season. Made it pretty far. I believe they made it to the promotion relegation games in OWCS, but got sent back down here. And I think they want to get back to that spot again because I really feel like they believe they could be playing in OWCS.
Yeah, I think they had a good shot before, and I think they still have a really good shot now. Whether it is going to happen or not, obviously, is much further down the line for us to hopefully answer. But either way, in terms of tonight, that is going to do it for our action. Of course, that is not it for the week. We have one more game this week we're going to be covering, and that's going to be on Friday, 9 p.m. EST. We have Emote Down Mid versus Shikigami. Two teams not having the best beginning in the world, but have a chance to get a big win early on, and I'm excited to have that match when we get to it. But it's already getting pretty late right here. We're going to send y'all over to Bullskunk, where he's finished out a map 5 right now between Alternate and Hive Mind, so that should be a good one to finish out the night. But for us here, we sincerely appreciate all of you being here. We hope to see you on Friday for some more Faceit League action. Good night.